All right, J-Lo is back. Well, she never went anywhere. That's the number one thing to think about. Jennifer Lopez on the floor. Oh my gosh. Let me tell you something. We got to talk about J-Lo in so many different ways because I gotta think this through. First of all, randomly Ronnie Jr., pop culture expert, and just all around cool dude. And if you want more from me, patreon.com/randomly Ronnie Jr. But here we go. On the floor, Jennifer Lopez. Why this is a little bit exciting, and she is having a moment right now for the song with Pitbull, like so many years ago, and now it's like all the buzz now. When something comes along in the zeitgeist is always a fun word. Zeitgeist, it's great. It's a very it's a moment where things could be communal. Now, that used to happen, if you're in my age bracket, I was born a long time ago. I'm over 35, over 40, the time just keeps flying. But back in the day, growing up in the, being in my 20s or whatever, just outside of the 90s into the aughts, I guess they call it, zeitgeist was so cool because it was like energy feeling in so many ways. Like it was energetic, and there was like a connection, a communal thing. Doesn't always happen that way now because there's so many different things that are buzzing all the time at different times and it's quick or whatever. But for Jennifer Lopez with this song with Pitbull, for it to be coming back in such a way on the floor, I don't know. I'm happy about it for multiple reasons. Number one is this. The song has always been great. Jennifer Lopez, Pitbull, on the floor. It's great. She does the little spin. The music video's cool. I've got older family members that even have always loved that song. It's high energy. It's in that era that Pitbull really, he just had a ton of songs and he'd always have a feature or he'd be featured. And this was the one with J-Lo. Not like they only have one song, and they, of course, have others. But it just really takes you back even to that, to think about oh man, I remember that song, and just kind of remembering who you were. Now, for me, it's remembering how much of a Jennifer Lopez fan I've always been, which is going to get me to the second part of what is interesting about J-Lo's On the Floor becoming all the buzz yet again. And that is, it has been so much, and then we'll talk about, of course, why it is back, for the most part, a big old buzz around On the Floor. It comes from a TV show. We'll talk about that in a second. But I just think that there was so much time being put into J-Lo and she's this and she's that. And then she had that documentary on Amazon Prime that she produced, but it kind of made her look silly in some kind of way because Ben Affleck was in it, and it may have been at stages of their relationship that maybe weren't bad, but, maybe weren't good enough to be under that microscope, and it just didn't work out. The relationship didn't work out. People didn't love that documentary. I actually liked it. I was fine with her doing the album, which kind of was the connection to that doc, which was This Is Me Now versus This Is Me Then or something like that. Remember, This Is Me Then was so great. I already did a whole episode about all the songs, and, it was different. Maybe she was trying to bite off too much at one time, but nonetheless, it fell flat for her, and it became a very funny comedic thing to laugh at Jennifer Lopez or to say she's so mean, which people have always said she's stern, and I sit on a very weird side with that because with J-Lo, she's always been stern. However, I don't know that you could cultivate the career that she has had without that. You really have to look at yourself and how tough things are sometimes, and how, if you go along to get along, you might not get very far. And for what it is, she has been doing this consistently for so long. Her work ethic is incredible. That's undeniable. I think she only drinks alcohol once or twice a year. And for what it is, the ability to have longevity in a business and multiple businesses is not easy, because a lot of times you can, be J-Lo, fresh on the scene in your late 20s. And remember, she used to have the clothing line or whatever. So you're hot at the moment, but things change and time changes. And how do you change? And she's always done it. So I'm saying it's exciting right now for J-Lo's song On the Floor and for Jennifer Lopez to be having this moment, because I think people overplayed how lame, not in my words, but in words. And I usually don't pay attention to stuff of that nature. a silly vertical video, and let me tell you about J-Lo. It's like, you worked with her, her, like, you're welcome to have an opinion, but it was just too much, is what I'm saying right there. And when those comments were coming in, and she was sort of like, being judged very harshly, my thoughts were like, I mean, I always loved the term years ago, if you're going to make commentary, at least have the credentials to do so. And it was kind of like this thing where, like, you'd have Jennifer Lopez, say what you say about her, if you like her or you don't. She's a success. She's a go-getter, and she's top-notch, top-tier at what she does, and has such fortitude. And then, like, just with the option to be able to just have like a fun little vertical video, and you would hope that, like, the credentials would match the commentary, meaning I guess I could do anything I want, but I can't watch an Olympic athlete and my fat ass talk trash about the Olympic athlete and how they do their job, because like, at the very least I could have an opinion, sure, but at the very, very least, like, they have proven, and they have a track record. And so I always thought that was such an interesting thing, and I think it was overplayed with J-Lo, that yes, she might be stern, she might be a little bit of a bitch. I don't think so, but she might be a little bit of a bitch. But, like, it just became like a pylon that was lame, in my opinion. Anyways, why even, like, going back there is, like, sort of a waste, but I just, bringing it full circle as to why I think it's exciting that On the Floor J-Lo is having a moment right now, because, again, I love the song, A. B, she's kind of been taking a little bit of a, like, oh, J-Lo. It's like, it was fun to laugh at her. I'm like, well, but who are you? Kind of a thing. And what's also interesting about it is I think she's just at that stage where it's like, I think J-Lo tries very hard, and this feels like a time where she's not trying very hard. She's gearing up to do what a lot of people will say she does best, which is the romantic comedy. She's got the new romantic comedy with the name of Office. It's not Office Space, Office Love, Office in the Office. I don't know. But she's gearing up to do that with the actor from Ted Lasso. And romantic comedies always tie J-Lo back to, like, something she does really well. I don't know if it's what she loves the most. She may love music more, but romantic comedies always give audiences, like, that sense of, this is like where she shines in a way. But yeah, breaking the whole thing down, On the Floor having its moment. And when you say having its moment, again, it's not what it used to be. I remember, like, being fresh out of high school in the late 90s, and, like, if something was big in the zeitgeist, we all felt it. We all were connected to it, and it was a little bit more special. Now it's like, oh, something's having a moment, but it's like, a trending topic, and it's here today, gone tomorrow. But it is cool, and it was enough for me to say, like, oh, let's at least talk about this. So I guess the origins behind it, and I always like when movies and TV, film, cinema really have that great music connection, be it the score or the soundtrack. And there's a show, and I watched a couple of the episodes. It is on Amazon Prime, great little connection because J-Lo did the Amazon Prime stuff. Amazon Prime has the, it's called Off Campus. Yeah, it's called Off Campus, which is like, I think they're like a group of friends, and they're all really going for their hockey careers and dreams, and, all the different things that are going to happen with the busy collegiate life, and, trials and success and that kind of thing. Well, there was like a fun little moment, and the song in the series with two of the cast members was J-Lo's On the Floor, which anytime you do that in a show, it gives it that room, that those legs to really grow, but it doesn't always, like, go as big. But for whatever reason, it did. Like, On the Floor did really, really well. And before you know it, everyone's taking their interpretation, because, no one receives anything anymore. Like, oh, that was really cool. They have to, like, go right to their platforms and turn on their little verticals and, dance to it, which I guess could be cute and fun to a degree. But from that show, Off Campus on Prime, and it being kind of buzzy, and these vertical videos, just, quick little vertical videos, just went really big. So much so, I think J-Lo was working with the actress now, at least on something, that was in Off Campus. And so it's just kind of been a really, really fun thing. A lot of times when these songs have their moment, I'm always like, I'm indifferent. I think of a song like Goo Goo Dolls' Iris, which I've loved forever, ever, 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 ever. You talk about some of the great clips to go look at, the YouTube Iris, Goo Goo Dolls performing it in the rain. I believe it was in Buffalo. And like, these are just these moments, and the songs are bigger than these moments even. And then like, you always get excited because you're like, oh, okay, it seems like, there's a trending topic that's, online, it's buzzy, and like, but then sometimes I feel like it gets overshadowed. Like the quality of the song, like a What's Going On by Linda Perry or Goo Goo Dolls' Iris, I feel like those songs have so much more quality than like the silliness that comes with it. Now, On the Floor is more fun, so it really don't matter how it kind of goes, but you get what I'm saying overall, that like sometimes the songs get overshadowed by the trending topic and how it's, these thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and more thousands of vertical videos where everyone's having fun. But the greatest thing about it is, yes, we'll never get back to kind of the way it was, where the zeitgeist felt very energetic when something was buzzy, but it is a different version of it. I don't always love the version of it as much. And again, if it was like, oh, J-Lo, she's having a moment with On the Floor, a song that came out all these years ago, and now it's back on the charts and it's back streaming on Spotify heavily and Apple Music and all these things, I would normally be like, okay, it'll be here today, gone tomorrow. I wouldn't even make commentary to it. But for me, I was just more like, what a good Jennifer Lopez moment. I think, yes, she's a rock, and yes, she could handle everything. But the last years, whatever, it was like, it was just a little too much punching down at J-Lo. Well, I guess in that way it would be punching up. But like, at some point, I always look at it like this. Is she rough and tough and maybe not that easy to get along with? Maybe. But, sometimes you have to look at the scenario at hand. She is forged her own path in this industry, and I can't imagine it to be that easy. I've always looked at it like this because I've worked with some wonderfully creative and talented and ambitious and positive and uplifting, people, and whether it was a man or a woman, but like, let's say specifically a woman, and you would get these reputations of like, oh, she's tough, she's this, she's a bitch, all these things. And like my personality and tenacity never, it was interesting. I was like, that's supposed to be the tough one? Like, I understood the person's expectations, and I understood the person's ability to win and succeed, but like, I didn't see an unjust like reason to be really, really rude. And so I always in my head at least thought like, oh, J-Lo would probably like we would vibe in some kind of way. There's such a respect, at least for me. And I always like try to do the work in that way. Anyways, now I'm going like way off tangent on what I feel about J-Lo, but I just think it's pretty cool. I think it's cool, and yeah, people are gonna always think what they think, or there's always gonna be a waiter that waited on J-Lo, in 2007 and has a horrible story. But then on the flip side, there's always gonna be 10,000 other stories that kind of say the opposite and kind of say, her sincerity. I do know that it's a tough job that she does have, being in such a public setting, but then always putting out work. One thing J-Lo has done that I think maybe is good for her, but like you do got to think about like slowing down sometimes. She's always doing something, always. And maybe, a little time away, she has, of course, the budget to do so, could be really healthy. And you see that a lot with like dating, because she, of course, gets critiqued on the dating. But like sometimes it's like in one relation right into the next. And maybe that's where the problem lies. Whereas if you can like take a little time away, give it a little space, give it a little energy, you kind of come back, bigger and better than ever, which I think is cool. For J-Lo's dating, I will say that I used to always sort of defend it in this way. Yes, and sure, she is the most. However, if you dust yourself off and get up and try it again, as the words of Aaliyah, like, I don't know, like, love is a tricky and complicated thing. And what do you do? Sit in your sorrow of you failed? The same token, you don't want to go too far this way and like, sort of put that energy into another relationship. And it's kind of it's kind of set to fail before it even begins because you haven't really got right with yourself. So she's definitely, the Elizabeth Taylor of our time in terms of lots of marriages and engagements and stuff. But I always kind of look at it like, you make these decisions like, I'm either going to give up completely, and now I'm just going to for sure, like if I give up completely, speaking for J-Lo, that's it. Now that's so look at the scoreboard, let's say, if it was sports, right? Look at the scoreboard. Well, there you go. That's it. That's what you got. And I think sometimes you getting up and trying again always gives you a chance to have your wonderful love story down the road. And that's kind of the way to think about it. And with a lot of things too, with work and, you get knocked down, you get up again. Like if you just throw in the towel, like now you're sitting in some of these sorrows, and that's like the story now. But a lot of times you'll meet somebody with either success or whatever the thing is, and you're like, you see them as so perfect, and they're like, let me tell you something about 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I was really going through it. So you got to think of it like that. Like even with dating, like if it's a no and you never try again, well then that's the story. There is the story. But, you always give yourself a chance to, like, get a better story. And, on the floor. J-Lo, one thing with her is, like, a lot of her music does have these, even though, like, these are not, like, the most meaningful songs. They are just dance songs. But a lot of her, like, the notations of how she expresses herself is very like get on the floor. Like it's actually like a symbolic, like get on the floor, like go for it. When she had one documentary, I think on HBO, and it was called Dance Again. And that was coming off of like what I would say was probably her hardest, as a J-Lo super fan, as her hardest breakup, with the great Mark Anthony. It was like, this could happen, that could happen, this could happen. But at the end of the day, you got to get up and dance again. So get up and dance again and get through your stuff, because there's always so much better out there for you. With the wise head, for sure, you got to be wise. You got to be smart. You got to have that tutelage of, just really think it all through and set up a good game plan for yourself to be the best for yourself and be the best for others too. And then you got to get up and dance again. You got to get up on the floor, those kinds of things. So yeah, I mean, I was like, oh, okay, I've got, over 1,400 pieces of content here on youtube.com/randomlyronniejr, randomlyronniejr.com, or Patreon, or at Hey Ronnie Jr., or like, with the collaborating work, whatever. And I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like stop down to talk about a J-Lo's, how did I catch wind of it? J-Lo's song On the Floor is going viral. Like, it's just like such a silly thing to talk about. And then I kind of like breaking it down in my head, those of us who have been J-Lo fans forever, like it was like, what a year it was last year, with all the criticism, So it really does tie it all together that stuff is going to happen. You go through it, and then you go through it, and then you like get up on the floor, you dance again. Like these, it's very simple, but I think it's a really like cool time for her. And again, like coming right into being so close, or in the midst really of another rom-com, a romantic comedy. A great song buzzing about, the seasons are changing, warm summertime. Like at the very least, like throw that music on and, enjoy your, if you're cooking or cleaning or whatever, or if you're in a automobile and you're like driving down the highway and you just did on the floor, da, 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 da. It's like, it's cool, right? It's cool. So anyways, Jennifer Lopez, she's, I wouldn't say breaking records again, because this is just like a little viral trend. I usually give such little energy to viral because, it's not a lot of substance sometimes. But you know what? If you think about it, and I was reminded by Mia, is her name Mia? Mia on Summer House. I've been watching Summer House since season 1. I haven't watched as much Summer House season 10, but Summer House season 10 is huge right now. They're in their reunion. And anyway, the cast is really big because of a particular, like, a 4-person dating thing, which is the show, and it's like so dramatic or whatever. Well, anyways, the cast is really huge right now. So they're getting all these opportunities, and they're here, they're everywhere. And Mia was at the American Music Awards. And again, this is no diss to reality TV cast member, but a lot of times if you're a reality TV cast member, you're on the red carpet with, people have been in, let's say, someone's been a singer for 20 years, someone's been a songwriter for 30 years, someone's been a country artist for 15 years. Like, it's just a higher tier of success in a way. So usually the reality TV people go on the red carpet and they sort of get overshadowed in a way. Well, in true J-Lo fashion, whether she was trying it or not, Mia really, I don't know if it was actually Versace, but Mia was wearing a green inspired, like very cut out type of dress that J-Lo wore years ago at the MTV. Was it MTV Music Awards or was it the Grammys? I think it was the Grammys. Remember, that year she was presenting with David Duchovny, I think. But anyways, Mia, this reality star, went on the red carpet, given all the J-Lo energy, Versace, the green, like. Back in that day, you want to talk about, viral sensation. That was like the beginning of like the search engines on like Google and Yahoo and all that stuff back in the day. So in some way or another, J-Lo, A, has always been a showstopper, and B, she's always been in that zeitgeist. She's commanded attention, and she's been the buzz. So like it wouldn't be anything different. But yeah, with a new movie, romantic comedy coming, and it being in the midst of this new season, Summertime Fine, and On the Floor, which has always been literally one of my favorite songs of hers. There's so many. Great music video, very high energy, very fun. This is cool. So no more talking. Now it's only time to say da 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 da. Tonight we gotta get on the floor. That's it.
Hey, Ronnie Jr.